Hey, Ranni here. Shall we make a game? So last time we kind of started the very beginnings of this sort of rooftop dialogue scene, which is where the kind of like rules of the game are going to be explained. So let's just play the animation back. So it kind of flies up, lands, they sort of separate. This bit's a bit awkward timing wise. I feel like we should maybe like some lines of dialogue before they turn around and view the city. So. How would we open this? How would we open it? I'm going to stick a line of dialogue in between. Yeah, okay, so. Yeah, here we are. This is the bit where they face one another. And. Okay, this is a slight delay before they turn to face the city. So we just get rid of this entire thing and replace it with a bit of dialogue. I have some dialogue down here I can copy. Okay, so how are we going to start this? Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Well, perhaps asking where we begin to say goodbye to start. I don't remember if this takes any arguments or not. I don't think it does. Let's find out. So the kind of concept is that the angels are kind of responsible for us, but they don't necessarily understand us, which is why they basically take the recently deceased as kind of like jurors, right? So I guess that's about as good an explanation of it as any. Where do we begin? Ultimately, we are responsible for your kind. And I'm going to put a new line there so it doesn't overflow the box. And then onto another dialog line. Well, we are all-knowing. No, they're not all-knowing, not all-knowing. Yeah, so the idea is that they're, like sort of like supernatural entities. They have, understanding beyond their own, but they don't have the context we do for what kind of constitutes, fault or blame, which is why they're kind of deferring to a human to do it. So ultimately, we're responsible for your kind. But they'll be talking about perspective, wouldn't they? Like how about their ultimately very different perspective means they lack the context. Oh, maybe like possess would be a good word. So yeah, so saying ultimately they're responsible for our kind. Elevate perspective, however, means they often do not possess the context needed to. What's the right word for this? Not necessarily judge. Weigh consciences and consequences. Have I spelt that correctly? Yes. And then we're going to have the protagonist kind of like butt in. And for now, the cutscene's going to end there. I'm just going to comment all of these out. And writing dialogue's really hard. It really is. I'm probably going to reread this off stream and go, what on earth was I on about? And I really need to find a better solution to scripting dialogue than this. This is getting very, very verbose. What should be like a couple of lines of text becomes 10 to 20. Okay, let's see how that looks. It fails to build is what happens. Okay, let's see how that flows. So where do we begin? Ultimately, we're responsible for your kind. Our elevated perspective, however, means that we often do not... Oops, I think that might have been too much text. Let's move this word up here. Yeah, some of my font is a bit strange, and it means that the trying to judge the width of the text box by looking at this text, you don't quite get a one-to-one. Elevated perspective, however, means that we often do not possess the context needs to weigh consciences and consequences. And the wrong person is giving that line. Oops. Let's give that line to the protagonist. And we don't have a standing talking animation for the protagonist yet, so I'm going to have to get on that. Okay, and we're going to fire up Blender. I am probably eventually going to have to go through and make a bunch of various kind of like emote animations, because at the moment they don't emote at all while they're kind of giving out dialogue, and it's a bit strange. It's a bit strange. Part of what gives it that kind of stilted feel. So let's go over to standing poses and let's duplicate both of them. And then we're going to give them a bit of a tweak just to kind of make the hand move in a way that makes it look like they're talking. Now, most of the time, I've kind of put myself into an awkward situation here. Most of the time, we're going to be seeing this guy from this side, right? Which means you won't be able to see much of his left arm. So ideally, I wouldn't be having him kind of emote with that. But also, I don't really want to emote with the right arm because his stick is in it. I don't really want him, like waving the stick around. It'd be a bit weird. Oh well, kind of made my bed now. You have to lay in it. Just do the best we can, I suppose. And the rotation center is actually already set. So make sure I'm in the right mode for it. Oh yeah, and hide the other frame. That's probably a good idea, isn't it? Yep, that's good. Now we do want to exaggerate this positioning slightly because if we don't, it will just disappear into a mess of pixels. Oop. And do a few adjustments just to maintain volume because his arm's kind of crushing down to nothing. And his hand kind of looks a bit too long though. Sorry, his forearm kind of looks a bit too long. Shorten that slightly. And for this frame, I'm thinking like making it so it kind of like touches his chest almost. Oops, I selected one more vertex than I intended to. All right, that's good. And now we just need to uncrunch all these vertices, which are currently in a nice little pile. Okay, that should do. Let's export that and see how it looks. Let's do a build, see where it goes. Does it crash? Oh, we didn't like something. What didn't it like? Oh! I should probably put a constant in somewhere for the protagonist name. That makes sense, actually. Oh, I've changed the header file, so I should do a parallel build as well. Okay, let's see how that looks in engine. That looks okay. Right, let's have them face the city now. Oh, actually, maybe one more line of dialogue. Just kind of like build up to them facing the city. Right, I might also move the camera angle at this point. Now, I don't think I currently have any kind of back faces on here. So if I did have the camera kind of like looking here, oh, that'd be a bad idea. There'd be no skybox either. Maybe it goes more like here. Maybe it just draws in closer. I'm not quite sure yet. Let's just position it by hand, I think. Maybe slightly off axis. Slightly like this. Something like that will do, and I'll just be able to copy all these values directly into the code, and it should work. Now I'm going to have to translate this into something useful, like radians. So I think that'll be divided by 8, I think. Oh, I've broken something. What have I done? Oh yeah. I haven't uncommented all of these. Let's just see how that looks, especially if a dialog box over on the character's heads. It's possible I need to move everything to stop it clipping the edge. Oh, that camera angle isn't actually that great. It's not different enough to be worthwhile. Maybe I raise the camera up slightly and have it looking down a bit more. So maybe more like this. Yeah, it's not that'd be good. Just looking for a bit more, dynamism. Just so it's not basically like a completely static camera for like an entire scene. That'd be kind of not great, honestly. Maybe I could have it do a bit of a pan. Wish I'd been thinking about this a bit more when I'd actually modelled this scene. I might have put a bit more in there just to see out of shot. Right, let's turn this into radians. And same with the y-axis. Why can't we all just agree on one number space? Wouldn't that make everything so much easier? Okay, let's try that for a camera angle. Okay, that'll do. I might move this camera change a bit sooner though. Yeah, I might put it here so they kind of rotate together. But yeah, it's plenty of space here for dialogue. That should be good. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay. So yes, it's kind of the bit where he's going to be kind of explaining that sort of every day in the city, thousands of kind of interpersonal conflicts happen, and you have the capacity to decide the fate of a few of them. I think a better way of putting that though. It's a good word for this because I think clash, but maybe something a bit more kind of saying like every day thousands of souls clash, but that kind of makes it sound like it's necessarily kind of almost kind of warlike, which isn't what I'm going for. It's kind of like more friction. It's a good word for when something experiences friction. Okay, main languages have a verb to describe. Scrape, that's a good word. But it doesn't really work in context. Maybe put both of them in there. Yeah, two wrongs, maybe they make a right, who knows. So thousands of souls clash and scrape today. Deciding which in each case is truly at fault is where you come in. Okay. Your lifestyle, your virtuous lifestyle, has earned you 3 fate points. Not spent, not quite spent, kind of like allocated or assigned. Okay, and this is probably going to be a good spot for a bit of dialogue tree, not just a linear narrative here. This is the point at which the player has a few. So I'm thinking one of the options is they'll be able to ask, well, what if I just don't want to decide? What if I feel like this is, more weight than. Actually, start making a note of these. Doesn't want to decide. What if the player. Well, doesn't want to decide. Player needs to be able to ask what the consequences will be. Player can kind of, and also the player, because they're going to become this sort of like more lonely kind of character, can state that they don't know anyone in the city. After all, the player themselves won't know anyone in the city, so that actually kind of works as, a player avatar thing. Okay, so I'm just going to flip back to my previous script because I've forgotten what kind of code is needed to show a full menu. Here it is. Yeah, so we can ask what are the consequences of spending a fate point. We can ask, we can say, how would they put this? I don't exactly know too many people myself, they wouldn't like say, I'm socially isolated. They'd say something like, kind of more of a context. It's kind of more of a thing where they're saying that they don't feel they have enough kind of social contact to make this kind of decision. Not sure yet. Have to think about that. And the final option is where they're sort of like, well, do I have to? Yeah, do I have the option to abstain? Is that the right word? That means not make a choice, right? Yeah, there you go. That's a good, yeah, still voting on that. That's actually a good choice of word for that. So in any circumstance, the angel is then going to sort of then push them towards sort of like, here's a short list that I kind of have. This is where the map kind of opens up. And yeah. And that's where we get onto our first scenario, hopefully. Oh yeah, I've got so many headers I need to import. Yeah, if I start doing more stuff with this, I'm probably going to end up making like a sort of like a super header you can import that just gives you like everything you're likely to need. This is starting to become quite a stack we're producing here. And almost every single one of these is going to need all this stuff. In the Visual Studio Code here, it's like, oh, this is bad, it's undefined. Okay, where is it defined? Oh, it's defined there. I'm like, well, it's not undefined then, is it, Visual Studio Code? Okay, let's just put these kind of placeholders in, and then the next step will be, there's going to be a bit of boilerplate in these because we need to, yeah, we need to close this kind of, yeah, we need to close this modal after we've opened it. And then we need to reset the protagonist to a non-talking animation. And then we need to declare all these ahead of time. Okay, we have an error here. What's happening here? Why on earth did I call it that? Anyway, so I need to think of like a reasonable response to each one of these. So if they ask what the consequences of spending a fate point are, the guy's going to be intentionally vague, so how would they put this in a way that's vague? Okay, so I guess I could put it in some kind of like flowery way that's kind of like technically true, but also kind of gibberish, like talking about like the threads of fate, you know. Fate points will tug on the tapestry. I didn't have a word that like, because I've called the points fate, and that might have been a poor choice because we're going to be talking about fate a lot in this. help me, Doctor Go. What else can we use in place of the word fate? Fortune's actually a good one. Yeah, so let's put something in vague and kind of flowery like that. Your fate points will weigh on the tapestry of fortune and consequence. And then I'm going to follow up with another line, which is going to be just him, kind of apologizing that it's kind of vague. Yeah, I must apologize. I'm unable to precisely elaborate what will happen. Okay, this is actually a part where I could actually do a bit of foreshadowing and be like, if you knew what was going to happen, it would, it might unfairly influence your judgment. So yeah, saying it could influence your judgment and require understanding beyond, almost kind of like beyond your realm, I guess. So kind of like comprehension of unearthly matters beyond your grasp. And this is going to be where the protagonist basically goes, oh, and they're going to be like, well, I guess I'm not finding out that way then. Just steal the steal a previous line of dialogue so I can use its animation data. Okay, let's rephrase this question so we can have a bit more sort of back and forth. So like, I kind of wanted to say something at the end, just kind of like, well, I guess that's a no then, something along those lines. What are the consequences of spending a fate point? Your fate points will weigh on the tapestry of fortune and consequence. Must apologize, I'm unable to precisely elaborate what will happen because knowing what could influence your judgment, and it would require comprehension of unearthly matters beyond your grasp. And this is kind of a bit rude, kind of like, well, I guess that's a no then. I suppose I might understand once we get into this, and then the kind of reply to that is going to be, perhaps. And I'm going to split this into 2 lines of dialogue because I want that kind of punchiness between perhaps and any of the matters to discuss. And that's when we can wrap it back around to the menu. Or perhaps the autocomplete could not help me at all here. Okay. Okay, so if let's have a bit more think about this. What might the sort of protagonist say here? They might say something like, "I'm hardly a community figure." Is that a good turn of phrase? Maybe. Oh, I'm hardly a pillar of the community. And also as an item, just skip to the kind of end. We should maybe also just store in a variable whether or not we've gone through at least one question. Just because it'll mean that we phrase things very slightly differently. I'm trying to think what someone would say if they actually had no questions in the situation. I'm pretty sure everyone would have many questions, probably more than allowing the player to ask. So let's put that in there temporarily, and we're going to later on make this. Oh, actually, what will happen after this? How many of these do I have? Wow, this is a lot of dialogue compared to the first scene, isn't it? You can tell when I have to do tons of work between each line of dialogue that suddenly there's a dialogue explosion. Okay, so let's just to do this off. And the music I stuck on to stop myself mumbling has finished. That's kind of surprising. I thought the album was longer than that. That'll do. Okay, let's keep going. And all these routes need to set the flag indicating that we've answered at least, well, we've asked at least one question. Okay, that's good. Okay, so if they say that they're hardly a pillar of the community, so yeah, this is going to be where the angel's basically going to go into detail saying that, don't worry, because even if you don't know anyone in the surrounding area, you haven't got any idea who on earth you would kind of spend the points on. We have kind of like a short list for you. So yeah, this is the part where they're saying kind of like, do not fear. Although we struggle with nuance and context, we have the ability to... We have heuristics. How to tell a programmer wrote it. Possible high-profile interpersonal conflicts. And can provide you with a shortlist. Right, and then we're going to have one line off the protagonist. Oh, this block of dialogue is actually going to be reused between all of the dialogue trees. Now, this is almost certainly going to crash the first time I run through one of these, right? There's no way I got all these right first time around. I probably got like the wrong parameters on one of these callbacks or something. So rather than saying perhaps again, that's a bit boring. Maybe it says something like, yeah, it seems that you've thought of everything. You know, you've got me a shortlist and everything. Let us combine our knowledge with your instincts. Yeah, there we go. Right, and then we have the one final dialogue tree, which is about abstaining from the question, from choosing. So I'm thinking about maybe having a bit of humor in this line here, where it's kind of like, well, we can, you can abstain as long as you want. You'll be stuck here as long as you want. You may indeed opt not to spend your fate points. You will, however, trapped on this earthly plane, earthly plane for eternity until you do. Perhaps the knowledge that this will also trap me here. Not trap. Require. So perhaps the knowledge this will also require my presence for eternity will inspire a little more decisiveness. That'll do. Not too cheeky. Here he is, meant to be kind of like an angel and stuff, but just a bit of kind of like, you could not choose. You'll be here forever. And then we're going to go back to the loop back. There it is. Okay, that should all be good. So we can then have it go into the next line of dialogue, which is, I think it needs to change very slightly depending on whether you ask any questions. If you're, yeah, so he's gonna make a comment on the fact that, like, obviously this angel does this a lot. Lots of people die all the time. So he's gonna comment on the fact that it's kind of weird for someone to not have any questions. Your confidence, yeah, maybe kind of like the fact that they are so confident they don't need to ask any questions has them going like, is this really the person we should be asking? Yeah, your confidence clouds my. There's a word here and I'm trying to searching for it. Writing's hard. Not vision, not vision. And not soul. Not perspective. Maybe just something else like. So then it's not going to go into any dialogue after that. That's fine. Okay, so I think that's all written now. Let's just have a quick test through all of these paths and make sure they all work, which they almost certainly will not the first time around, and that's actually fine. Okay, we need to go all the way back up to there, damn. Man, there's a lot of dialogue I just wrote. Hope none of it's too cursed. One of the things I did actually find kind of quite interesting, I followed Tim Kane's like sort of daily vlogs where he talks about various development things. He mentions that writing isn't actually one skill, it's actually a family of skills, depending upon what kind of context you're writing in. He's mentioned that he really enjoys writing kind of like worlds and lore, but usually when he writes kind of character dialogue specifically, it doesn't come out that great. Probably the kind of thing that you can't really judge until other people have read it though, right? Almost there. It's right. I clearly need to write less dialogue. I'm not sure how much dialogue I'm going to have in each kind of scenario. Probably slightly less than this. Okay, I'm going to voice this as I'm playing it back, just so I can get a feeling for how kind of fitting it is to each character and whether it flows nicely. I feel that's a good way of doing it rather than just staring at the screen. I'm not going to get super in character with the voices though, because you don't need to hear that. Ooh, what's this? Ah, it's because I've now numbered them. Because I've written so much dialogue. These are I'm probably going to encounter at least one of these that's too long and overflows. Okay, just working for the last of these and trying to get them all to kind of sit together nicely. And this is saying it's unused. Oh yes, because I'm not... We're about to have one one dialogue tree kind of like cross-pollinate to another. That isn't what we wanted at all. Almost there. Okay, this is probably going to crash as soon as we get to the menu. Okay, so where do we begin? Ultimately, we are responsible for your kind. Our elevated perspective, however, means that we often do not possess. This isn't a crash, it's the render loop having a bit of an issue. It's just frozen up a bit. You can see the mouse is actually still moving. There we go. Is it going to recover? Normally recovers. Probably see in the performance timeline the... Oh, I wasn't expecting a whole new window. Yeah, it's gone a bit wrong. It's destroying the CPU right now. Let's just refresh the page. I need to fix that bug at some point, but just not yet. Context needs to weigh consciences and consequences. This is why you need me, precisely. Have a good look at there. Hey! List item has too many columns. I wrote too much dialogue. So they face the city, and then this line of dialogue is too long. So maybe we just drop one of these. Thousands of souls. Maybe not clash. Oh, conflict. Let's try that. That might be short enough. Thousands of souls conflict in the city line each and every day, and then my next line of dialogue is way too long. Yeah, that was way too long. What was I thinking? Now, I could make it so you could type more dialogue in. However, I feel like it's already at the right length if I'm sticking to this rough rule. I just wish there was a better way of kind of like detecting it ahead of time, like a character count. Something which in each case is truly at fault. That's a bit clumsy. I'm just going to make a note there. This is too long as well. I think the second line might be too long here as well, so I'm just going to give that a test. Oh no, the second line's actually fine. So it's actually this first line that's too long. Let's just change your to A. A virtuous lifestyle zone. That will probably still fit. Okay, yeah, so the menu also needs shortening slightly. Let's get rid of all of the options except the first so we can narrow it down to which one's wrong. Just going to have to void these off so they don't cause compile errors. I think it probably is going to be the first one that's way too long. Yep, the very first one is way too long. Let's give that a try. Oh, I wish this was faster. I wish there was a way to skip to the line of dialogue that's actually having the problem. Just realised something. This guy looks like 3D buildings, but they're definitely not. Oh, it's a consequence of the kind of diagonal line from the affine triangle rasterization. There you go, that now fits. The positioning isn't great though. Do I have it placed? Yeah, I got it placed where his sitting head is. Okay, let's put the next line in. Does that one fit? This one probably will. Go on, let's go. I want to get Stellar Tree done today. Okay. Oh, straight away we're going to a line of dialogue. That's too long. So, your fate points will weigh on the tapestry of... Let's just, let's get rid of... Let's move that around a bit. I got rid of a few words and made it just a bit shorter and punchier. I'm just going to put what to do in there. Because I'm not entirely sure the word fortune quite fits. And let's shorten this a bit. I regret that I'm unable to precisely elaborate. That'll do. We can move that because knowing could influence your judgment and require comprehension of unearthly masses beyond your grasp. There we go. That's much shorter, much punchier, and it's less likely to trip the length limit. I wonder how they deal with this in like kind of like things like, say, you know, if they say, I don't know, making a Pokemon game or something, because those have like very fixed bounds on how much text they can put in, and they're not fixed numbers of characters. I wonder if they have like a preview when they're working on it. Okay, that's much better positioned. Oh, it's too long. Oh, indirect call signature mismatch. That means that I have an argument here that shouldn't be here. Let's just check what I did in the other script. Oh yeah, there's just no argument to those. Okay. Let's get rid of all of these. This will generate some compile errors because the advanced declarations at the top will no longer match up, but we can fix that beforehand. Oh yeah, and I'm still voiding them off, so still voiding off parameters that we no longer have. I don't know why I've kind of really decided to do kind of like a visual novel. I thought it'd be easy. Oh no, what was I thinking? Oh, what we got now? Index not in queue. Ha. So this will probably be where we're destroying the list component, right? Oh, hang on. I can definitely see a problem here in that I have multiple copies of this and I shouldn't. That might mean it's trying to delete the same component multiple times, which will cause issues. Okay, are we definitely assigning this? Yes, we are. And we've definitely got this. Let's just Let's see where that crashes. Because this might just leave a menu overhead, or it might still crash. Okay, it doesn't crash. Ah, this is interesting. Something's gone a bit wrong with our animation system. So, yeah, okay. I just told the wrong entity to dress up as the angel. Oops. So, destroying this is causing issues. Oh, hang on. I know why. It's not an entity, it's a component. Would be nice if that was at least a warning when I passed in the wrong type, wouldn't it? Your fate points will weigh on the top of your fortune. Something's to... Oh, we've got another indirect call match. So yeah, that needs to go. And that needs to go. Oh yeah, anything that comes off a line of dialogue needs to not have that component ID parameter on it, because that's only needed for if it's a manually created list item. Okay, let's continue getting rid of all these. These definitely don't need to be here. And then the compiler will complain a lot because we've we've removed a lot of parameters. Again, it would have been nice if the compiler could have gone, oh, the types don't match. You know, you're passing in a function for, as a function pointer that doesn't, as a pointer that doesn't match. It's definitely specified, you know, what type this should be. I'm not entirely sure why it didn't raise an error for that. I'm very happy that you know, the wasm runtime caught it nicely, but kind of feels like it shouldn't have had to. Okay, let's get rid of all of these. Yeah, if this was running as kind of like native code, there's a good chance that would have just crashed in a really weird and hard to comprehend manner. Okay. Oh, and then with a crash. List item has too many columns. This like goes back to the loop back. Any of masters goes. Oh, okay, this line is just too long. This line of dialogue needs splitting up. Yeah, I need to split this up into separate trees for no questions versus any questions. And also, if you have the detached sort of questioning line, yeah, so like if you kind of go to the next line of dialogue without, well, if you quit the menu without ever having found out about the shortlist, he'll explain it, otherwise he won't. It gets really quite complicated, doesn't it? It's many routes through something like this. Let's just make sure the lines of dialogue kind of fit first, though. Okay. Do not fear, though we struggle with nuance and context, we have heuristics able to detect possible high-profile interpersonal conflicts. We're able to provide you with a short list to work through. And the wrong character is saying it. You may indeed opt not to spend your fate points, or you can crash the game, that works too. Okay, we need to shorten this. You may indeed opt not to spend your fate points. This will, however, mean eternity on this plane. This will, however, mean an eternity as a ghost. Not as a ghost. As a lost soul. Okay, yeah, so like you have the option to stay here and do nothing, but it means you're going to spend forever on this planet as a lost soul with this guy for company. This will, however, mean an eternity as a lost soul with the pleasure of my company. Perhaps this knowledge... Oh, too many columns. Let's borrow a little more decisiveness. Okay, I want to change the line lengths a bit, because that was a bit... let's just run this again. It always looks weird when the first line in a pair of lines is shorter. And that's still too long. That's weird. Yeah, getting the rhythm of kind of like dialogue in a game like this is so key, and it's something that I'm going to be pretty terrible at because I've never really done it before, but it's like I'm very kind of cognizant. Is that a good word? Cognizant of? Okay. And I need to remember to actually close the dialogue box. As it's kind of still there and you can just answer it again and again and again. Oops. Right, yeah, I've made a note there to separate this out into separate trees. So I think that'll do it for today, as we are 10 minutes over. Man, writing dialogue's hard. I had no idea it was this difficult. Oh, my workflow, process here isn't really helping. If I was going to build a more kind of complete game with this, I would definitely want some kind of like simple intermediate language. Anyway, have a great evening, and I'll see you another time.